So just before we start writing our user stories, I thought it'd be useful to show you a tool that you can use to manage tasks within a project. So if you remember from yesterday's tutorial, we put together the kind of semi-structure of the project that we're going to be working on, and we need to have several tasks in order to complete this project for us, such as creating a web interface, creating the backend service, and all of the redirection process that's involved. So what I'm going to be using is a tool called Asana, and this is very similar to Trello, and there are lots of other different versions of this type of software as well, but I do like Asana. It's quite nice and simple interface, and it does offer lots of nice features as well if you want to make use of those. But essentially what we've got here is a board, and there are 3 columns at the moment, and we can create tasks, and we can put lots of information in those tasks, which I'll show you in a second. But essentially what we can do is move these tasks in between the different columns, and so we can keep track of where we are with each of our particular objectives within our project, such as creating the web interface, for example. So we could say something like web interface is this particular task, and when that's complete we can then move it over into this complete column, and it just tells us and keeps track of all of the project's requirements and anything that needs to be done. So we'll be writing our user stories here in the next lesson, but I just wanted to get this board set up so that we're ready to write our user stories and keep track of them in this project. So the one thing I'm going to do is just rename these columns. So we're going to basically have a to-do column, which is great because we know all of the work that we haven't started. We'll move these user stories when we're working on them into the in progress column, so that's all good. But I want to put another column over here to say when we've committed those changes to the repository, because we'll be keeping everything track of everything in a Git repository. And finally, we're going to have another column on the end here, just called deployed. So we're not going to have different environments for our project, we're just going to have literally our local copy and the deployed version. But this will just enable us to say when the project user story has been completed, but also has been deployed to the live server as well. In fact, I'm just going to change that to live so that we know that any task that or any user story that's in that column has actually been completed and is available live on the project. So for example, when we start working on the web interface, we would move the story over to here, to in progress. Once we've made a git commit and it's in the repository, we will make sure that it's committed, because we might not do a push on every commit, but this will just help us keep track of everything that's been committed into the main branch. And then of course, when we've actually pushed the story to the live service, and it is indeed live, we haven't got any failed deployments, for example, then we'll move the story over to here, and we can get a glance as to what we've actually pushed onto the live project. So as I say, you don't need to use this tool. Feel free to use any other tool that you are familiar with, but if you haven't done any project management before, either on your own projects or within your work, then this might be a good starting point for you. And you can sign up for a free account at Asana, and you can use all of these features that we're going to be using in the project for free too. So that's it for this tutorial. Stay tuned for more tips where we're going to be creating our user stories and then populating our project board.